Are the Panthers unbeatable? No, of course not. We saw that last night. Are the Panthers some lock to win a second consecutive Stanley Cup championship? No, of course not. Are they the template? Maybe. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Hurricanes 3, Panthers nothing. Carolina winning a game in the conference final for the first time since 2006. One of the most bizarre playoff streaks in NHL history comes to a merciful end. Unfortunately for the Canes, so will their season very soon. And that's because the Panthers are that much better than the Canes. And the Panthers are that much better than almost everybody in the Eastern Conference. And the only reason I hesitate was because, they were taken to 7 games by the Maple Leafs. I believe that had the Lightning gone in to the playoffs in more of a role, they would have given them more of a scrap than they did. The Capitals have some young up-and-coming talent. Of course, they have one guy who scores a lot of their goals who's not on the correct end of that particular spectrum. And one way or another, look, the Panthers are going to emerge as the class of the East, which they should have. And they might emerge as the class of the league again. But believe it or not, that's not why I'm broaching this subject today. The easiest thing to do is to look at the Stanley Cup champion, singular, once that cup is lifted, and say, well, there's the model, there's the team that everybody wants to be. There's the Penguins whenever they were flying around and generating a zillion shot attempts. There's the Kings and the Blackhawks whenever they were bigger and badder than everybody else. There's the Red Wings when it was all about European-style possession. But here's what I do. Here's what I do with the 4 surviving teams, and I'm going to include Carolina since, they're still surviving. Carolina is that European-style possession, Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov type of team. They're playing a style that kind of demands that they have a singular superstar, but they don't have a singular superstar, and that hurts them. At least not up front. I think the world of Jacob Slavin. So discard them from this. I don't see anybody anywhere saying, boy, we want to be like the Canes. And what you have left among the 3 teams, the other 3, the Panthers, Stars, and Oilers, is 2 different types of builds. On one hand, in Edmonton, you have the classic superstar build, which is, you get yourself 1 or 2 out of this universe talents and then just keep adding and augmenting to the supporting cast until you find something that works. The reason it hasn't worked for the Oilers to date, for the most part, at least I think, is that they've yet to get around to that part where you got to add a goaltender too. But with Florida and Dallas, and in particular Florida, what you have are rosters that are really well-rounded, that are deep, that are talented, that also come with enough of a size factor that they can dish and take it out with anybody. Now, the Panthers are younger in terms of those guys who do that sort of thing, whereas the Stars are still looking to Jamie Benn to be the bad guy, which is still a strange thing later in his career. But the Panthers come with authentically that identity that we're just going to scratch your eyes out. We're going to go right at you. We're going to irritate you. Paul Maurice said something. This happened to be in Pittsburgh, by the way, a few months ago, in describing his players as being eager to make the home team's fans angry with them, meaning on the road, of course. He expressed at the time that he feels those guys aren't really themselves unless they got a bunch of people mad at them. Now, that's a really narrow definition And it's not one that you can bring to the scouting combine, okay? It's not one where you can go and ask a bunch of teenagers, hey, are you the types who? But it is recognizing the group that you have, the personalities that you have. And they've got that agitation factor. They've got, let's put it this way, adding Brad Marchand couldn't have been more perfect for the Panthers. And I strongly suspect we have yet to see the ultimate Marchand in these playoffs in that regard. But I got to tell you, I'm okay with that. Maybe this is an old school hockey thought that probably should at least begin fading away, but maybe also it isn't. If I have a collection, and this is especially true up front, but it can also apply to defense and even goaltending, that I know on a given night really wants to make somebody else miserable. I know for a fact that they're going to come with energy way more often than not. I know that they're going to do something to disrupt the opponent more often than not. And if they happen to come with skill, so much the better, and size and all that other good stuff. And this is one of the things that's bugged me for years now about the Penguins. And you feel free to debate all you want about whether it's the GM or the coach or the ownership or whatever. But this incessant emphasis on puck possession, puck possession, puck possession. The end game there is Carolina. That's the objective. That's the high water mark for that type of hockey. Nobody, including, by the way, the Panthers, Stars, or Oilers, does it the way Carolina does it. Going to repeat this. We saw it again last night. They suffocated the Panthers, not because they were bigger and badder or anything else, but because they never gave up the puck. It makes you feel like you're not even in the game. But you don't win. You don't win at all that way. Not unless you do what the 2016 and the 2017 Penguins did, which is to take all of that and turn it into a zillion shot attempts. And by the way, finish a fair number of those shot attempts. But convince me, try to convince me why the Penguins shouldn't look at what Bill Zito's done in Sunrise and have that at least peripherally influence them in their ongoing roster building. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from Brian Sweeney in Columbus. He says, DK, I've followed the Blue Jackets here for a lot of years, and I can remember how excited the fans here were when Sergei Bobrovsky left town. He just never lived up to his expectations, but look at him now. He's the best goaltender in the league. Tristan Jarry shows what he can do sometimes. He also rarely lives up to his expectations. Is it possible, with a change of scenery, that Jarry could do the same thing that Bobrovsky did? Lots of layers to this one, my dude. Because to start, lots of players have left Columbus and gotten a lot better. Don't make me list the list. I don't know and really honestly don't care that much about the Blue Jackets to do some sort of in-depth study on why that is, but the pattern is stamped in cement. As is, by the way, the reverse pattern, meaning you come to Columbus, you were good somewhere else, and you're not good there. That's something that the ownership and management there need to sort out. I did like what I saw of a lot of their younger players. I liked what I saw of Dean Evason's system being implemented there. They became kind of like the team that I was describing in the opening segment. Maybe that's not an accident considering Bill Zito came from there. But yeah, Bob in Columbus. and now Bob in Sunrise. And that brings me to my second point here, which is another one that Blue Jackets can relate to. When Russians leave of their own volition, they tend to go to either New York or Florida. Why? New York, because there are a lot of Russians. Florida, because there are a decent number of Russians, but there's also beaches. Look it up. That pattern is just as stamped in cement. So Artemi Panarin loves it in New York, wants to stay in New York, wants to get paid in New York. He's awesome in New York. Bob's living the good life down there. Bob says, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Although between me and you, every day that I'm in Sunrise is another day I'd rather be somewhere else. What a boring place. But that's not a factor to be dismissed. Where Jari is concerned, I honestly, I feel like I would have fielded this question so much differently just a handful of months ago. Really. Because you say, is it possible with a change of scenery that Jari could do the same thing? I'm reading your question again. And I say that Jari passionately wants to be in Pittsburgh. It's not an act. He is not exactly the BS type. He believes in the franchise, the logo, the everything. And it's not a coincidence that when he came back from his second exile to Wilkes-Barre, that part of the pride that he kept expressing, including to me in settings away from microphones and cameras, was that he just wanted to be a part of this team. He sees Pittsburgh as the place where he will validate himself. That's why in this pretty nice run that he had, I think we can all agree, toward the end of the season, he was so appreciative, so moved by the applause, by the ovations, by the chants of his name, that it meant that much more to him. So I'm trying to answer your question here, not by making some sort of grand prediction or whatever, but addressing it literally. You're asking if it would be possible with a change of scenery, and I'm coming back at saying that I don't think it's going to require a change of scenery, or I don't think that would necessarily be the button to push if he were to bounce back or to rise up to a level he's never hit before. One thing about goaltenders, okay, and this applies to Bob and everybody else you can bring up, the number of them who have smooth, consistent career arcs is close to zero. I'm not saying this as some sort of defense of Jari, and again, I'm not making any kind of prediction here. But we had a lot of the same concerns right here in this city about Marc-Andre Fleury. We were thrilled when Thomas Vokoun came along and took his job. We can all conveniently forget that now because we all love Flower and all that other sappy stuff, but it happened. It really did. And then it happened again when Matt Murray came along. And, you casually threw out there that Bob is the best goaltender in the league. Some would have argued with you maybe just a couple of weeks ago that that's Connor Hellebuck. Then Hellebuck goes and has another, at least it was a lousy start to his playoff in Winnipeg, but that's now going to be something that dogs him. No matter what he does in the regular season, whether it's another Vezina or even a Hart Trophy or whatever, all anyone's going to say is, yeah, but wait till game one. It takes a while longer with goaltenders, and even the very, very, very best of them, no matter how strong they are, when they start out, they're gonna hit not just bumps, but outright roadblocks. I appreciate the question, Ryan. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll be back with another one of these tomorrow.